This is Incorruptible Mass News for Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. First, this week in activism. On Wednesday, May 31st, that's tomorrow, the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women's Advocacy Day at the State House. On Thursday, June 1st at 10 a.m. is Lobby Day for Homes for All, including rent control and foreclosure prevention. On June 6th at 11 a.m. is the local option for housing affordability, Day of Action at the State House, room 428. And on June 7th at 2 p.m., the Citizens for Juvenile Justice is having their Youth Justice Lobby Day at the State House, room 428. In climate news, the Gila River Indian Community project addresses the Colorado River drought that we talked about last week. The new reclaimed water pipeline project will help the Gila River Indian Community maintain their water resources for many years to come and will also conserve more water in Lake Mead. Delta Airlines is facing a lawsuit over its $1 billion carbon neutrality claim, which plaintiffs say is false and misleading as it relies on carbon offsets that do little to mitigate global warming. A rare and aggressive spring wildfires in the Canadian province of Nova Scotia have destroyed buildings and forced thousands from their homes. Officials have declared a local state of emergency. Hedgerows in England, which are a vital habitat providing food and shelter for mammals, birds, and pollinators, are under threat because of post-Brexit legal and funding changes. And new research shows that rock flour, produced by the grinding under Greenland's glaciers, can trap climate-heating carbon dioxide when spread on farm fields. In international news, drone attacks on Moscow, which Russia blames on the Ukraine. Of course, Russia is continuing its drone attacks on Ukraine's capital of Kyiv. The Ugandan president signed an anti-LGBTQ law, which includes the death penalty for same-sex acts. And the U.S. is considering sanctions against the country, as well as restricting visas for Ugandan officials until they remove that law. And pressure is building on Japan's government to legalize same-sex unions after a court ruled that a ban on them was unconstitutional. Following Sudan's trials, Sudan's rival factions agree to extend a shaky ceasefire. This conflict has forced nearly 1.4 million people to flee their homes so far. And President Erdogan wins re-election in the presidential runoff in Turkey. In national news, South Carolina court has put a temporary hold on their new near-total abortion ban. The debt ceiling deal, which has not gone through yet, but is on the table, includes these things: a 2-year debt ceiling suspension, spending limits, and listen to this, the defense budget is $886 billion and non-defense spending is $704 billion. $180 billion more dollars for defense, for the military, than for everything else. And those include limits, 1% increase only for the non-defense spending the next year. And it also includes a natural gas pipeline approval. It fully funds medical care for veterans. It has some extra funding for the IRS, but not as much as Biden had proposed. It includes new work requirements for SNAP recipients, but not for Medicaid recipients. It will force the resumption of student loan payments paused under COVID, but it will allow Biden's $10,000 cancellation of student debt. This, of course, still has to pass through both the House and the Senate. In other news, the prices of oil, transportation, food ingredients, and other raw materials have fallen in recent months as the shocks stemming from the pandemic and the war in Ukraine have faded, and yet large corporations have continued raising prices rapidly in order to increase profits, with profits becoming the largest driver of inflation. In state news, Boston city councilors have voted 10-2 on Wednesday, approving new district lines. Cambridge will launch free public preschool for all 4-year-olds. And on the state budget, the Senate version budget may differ from the House budget on a number of things, including funding to the Department of Public Health for the creation of birthing centers, online lottery, in-state public school tuition for certain undocumented immigrants, permanent funding for free school meals, drug testing kits to nightlife venues, and a floating hospital for mental health and substance abuse recovery, among other things. And 5 months into the year, Massachusetts lawmakers have had the least productive start to a legislative session in the last 40 years, passing only 10 laws so far. Thank you for listening to Incorruptible Mass News for Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. And be sure to tune in to our discussion of Massachusetts state politics later in the week.